Hello and welcome everybody to this XTB live news. My name is Walid Koudmani, market analyst for XTB, and in this video we're going to be talking about the main events happening in the markets today, Friday the 14th of May, in this last trading session of the week, taking a look at the economic calendar and then taking a look at the charts to see some major moves and some key levels to keep an eye on. And there's quite a few of them today. We've had a quite a move-filled week with the markets rebounding after some serious drops. So let's start with the recap of what's happened today and what we can expect from the markets going forward. So yesterday we had the US indices, which managed to recover after several days of bad performance. That led into a positive session today for the European indices, as I'm going to show you in a minute on the charts. All stocks in Asia also had a positive session, so that was also reflected positively. We've been also keeping an eye on the news regarding the oil pipeline in the US, where they've announced that it's going to be repaired and going back to production, and after following last week's hacker attack, as you may have heard on Friday. Bitcoin and cryptos are slightly down. Bitcoin around 50,000 after reaching a high of around 60,000 just not that long ago. Precious metals and all of those commodities we're going to be covering in a minute. As far as the economic calendar is concerned, we had a ECB speech, so from the European Central Bank. We also have US retail sales figures, which were below expectations. That's a fairly negative sign for the economy, especially with all the eyes being on the Fed and on the central banks to see what their reaction will be to this kind of news. We also had the US industrial production for April, so that's something else to keep an eye on. And we're going to be expecting the US consumer sentiment of the University of Michigan. So another thing to keep an eye on, if you're interested in central bank speeches, we have at 6 p.m. the Fed with Kaplan, who is quite a hawkish member of the central bank, so it's quite worth keeping an eye on what they say as well. If we move on to the charts, let's start with the DAX. As I said, several days of quite negative performance for indices. As you can see, several drops here. After testing this level once again, around 14,830 points, the index managed to rebound. And the reason I mentioned some key levels is because, as you can see right now, it's testing a previous resistance, which held the price or held the index for quite some time. After a few breakouts, we've also had a pullback several times. The first one was even higher. The second one was lower. So it's going to be interesting to see if the index is going to manage to break through this. The RSI is at 71, so just as you would measure it, call it slightly overbought, but nothing in extreme territory at the moment. The averages are all still above, the index is still above all the averages, you can see. So it's going to be interesting keeping an eye on the US session, how that impacts, and how we are going to close out the week on the markets. The UK index, which if you follow the WhatsApp, you will have seen the alert, is actually trading between three really interesting points. So you can see almost exactly 6,800 points, 6,900 and 7,000. These three have proved to be quite important in the past, as you can see, acting in support all along here after acting as a resistance. And this is what sometimes areas do. They tend to act as a resistance at one point and then a support as another. And we're seeing that in action right here with the top level of the range up around 7,000 points, which is also being tested. So similar move to the DAX, each one dealing with a different level. But it's quite interesting that it's such a round number and a psychological level, as they would call it. So you can see it's been tested here. It's been tested here. This is the third time after an upward move from the lowest low that it's reached. So before, obviously, it was in April. So it's going to be interesting as well to keep an eye on for this. Earnings season does continue in the US, so we are nearing the end of it. And let's take a look at US indices with the US 500, the S&P. Also recovering from this massive loss, as you can see. Huge drop from the all-time high. But if we go on the daily chart, you can see that it actually retraced all the way down to 4,000 points, which in the past acted as a price reaction as well. And the upward move actually dropped, you can see, below all this consolidation, which was going on for over a month or almost a month. And so in 3 days, you can see the drop. However, the recovery is almost halfway there. And at the moment, we're testing all this price reaction that was going on in the past, which if I zoom back in, you can see aligns with this area and this area over here. So there's several ranges to keep an eye on for the US index as well, but it's quite close as well to the all-time high. The US 100, so the NASDAQ Tech Index, which tends to be suffering lately even more than the US 500. You can see, actually, let me show you how big the drop was. By using this instrument, we can see that over 8% from the top to the bottom in 2 weeks, and now just attempting to recover, trading in this area here. And if we want to draw some levels, perhaps we want to draw maybe a support, potential support on the bottom, and then maybe a resistance where I just left it, which was a support in the past, and then a resistance here. Could be another one here, but maybe the main one would be around here, which also coincides with the 150 SMA on the hour. If we want to take a look at some commodities, gold, very interesting actually as we speak, testing once again 1840. We mentioned this level in the past. Top of the range, been tested several times, a few fake breakouts, a few, not even because it's just one candle or a few candles. And at the moment, push higher with as you can see, many green candles on the hourly, breaking through the Ichimoku cloud and now testing this key level as well after rebounding from 1808. Following a drop, as you can see. The US dollar is also playing a part in this, and I'll show you how in a minute. Oil prices, so we've touched on oil at the beginning of the week. Very positive start after last week's oil news with the hacking event in the US and the East Coast. However, as news of that died down and as basically the situation stabilized, people were reassured that supply wasn't going to be interrupted. Then we're seeing a pullback in the prices of oil, but it's still in a quite elevated range. You can see that if we want to go up perhaps on the 4-hour chart on the WTI, you can see that it's still in consolidation. So at the bottom of this range, if you want to even draw it lower, so let's say we take away the Ichimoku cloud, you can see that it's still hovering around the bottom of this range. So even after the drop to this level, you can see where it started, obviously. So we've had some very positive sessions in a row for oil, managing to recover all the way. At the moment, WTI trading around 64.80, approaching 65, which is around this 50 SMA. And so still also hovering in range. You can see potential here patterns as well. But fundamental news, it has been really carrying the oil and impacting oil as well, in addition to several other things. So in Brent oil, similar situation. So after the drop, at the moment, very interesting level as on 30 minutes, breaking through the Ichimoku cloud, testing 68.10 after rebounding from around this area as well, 66.50. So you can see that even though these drops are happening, you might remember very shortly before when price of oil was around $50. So overall, the market has been recovering, and I've talked about this in the past, also due to the expected recovery in demand, the reopening of economies, all of that plays a part into the price of oil at the moment. So quite interesting, a lot of things to follow on that end. If we want to take a look at currencies, let's take a look at the market analysis section of the platform, USD. US dollar, worst performing currency of the day. Everything is trading higher against it from small amounts to large. Euro is quite positive, but mixed. Pound is also quite negative. Franc is quite negative. Yen, negative. New Zealand dollar and CAD. So CAD benefits sometimes from the price of oil. It is quite correlated. And New Zealand dollar and Australian dollar are also positive. If we want to take a look at some pairs, actually, we can see dollar is negative and the pound is slightly positive. So you can see back the pair is trying to move back to 141, quite close at 149, 140.09. So if we want to draw a line perhaps on this area, you can see bottom support here acted as a support around 141, but you can see how high the move was just recently, obviously for the pair. From after consolidating here, we had this very big upward move with some consolidation here and the pullback, some more consolidation below the Ichimoku cloud, and then now breaking through, about to test this key level of 141. So if we will go back, actually, we can see that it's the highest level since February. So we're still hovering around the highest area since February after dropping slightly. Euro USD with the overlaid USD index chart, as always, you can see also trading higher, 121.3, 121.4. Similar situation to the pound with the pullback and then the upward move and then the pullback and then the upward move once again, trading around 121.3 after testing the 120 area. Also, USD index, as you can see, I like to show them because they look somewhat symmetrical sometimes. And as the USD index is pulling back, so the US dollar is losing strength, the Euro USD pair is actually gaining strength. And so that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Walid Koudmani, market analyst for XTB. Good luck with your trading.